Hello, my name is Tom Hogan, and welcome to the November 2021 Iowa Chapter NRHS slideshow. Today we are going to be seeing a show presented by Chris Lastovich. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how are you, Tom?
And he is going to be doing the short lines of Central Illinois for us today. So we're going a little bit off the beaten path here. We're not going for the racetrack. We're not going for Rochelle. We're going to see some backwoods branch line action with lots of varieties of old power that floats around down in these areas. So before we begin, I would like to just point out that we have another webcam that's going active, and actually this slideshow is on Sunday, which means that when you hear this, yesterday I will have been in Iowa Falls working on a Mills Tower webcam. This is the last remaining interlocking tower in the state of Iowa, and it is going to have a webcam facing to the northeast to look at the CN Waterloo sub and the UP Mason City sub interlocking there in Iowa Falls. So if you go to YouTube, you can check that out and see the webcam and the radio feed that goes along with it. So now let's begin our show. Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to show us and then dive right in.
All right, we're doing short lines of Central Illinois. We're going to cover a lot of grain hauling roads along the central belt there of Illinois. Lots of old EMDs, lots of agricultural traffic. We're going to start here. I will cover a photo here to get everyone's attention, get everyone all excited. We're going to start with a newer short line formed by Motive Rail Link called the Illinois Terminal Belt. And they were formed in October 2019, fairly recent. They're leasing what was originally IC's charter line. It's only 11 miles from Clinton off the CN up to Hayworth.
Clinton, Illinois,
And,
we should point out.
What's that, Tom?
Clinton, Illinois is what...
Clinton, Illinois. Yes, we are all in Illinois here.
Yes.
And they service a Tate and Lyle elevator in Hayworth and run the 11 miles south to the CN in Clinton, Illinois. And that's really all they do. I mean, they've got, look at this, they've got 3 awesome Paducah rebuilds. I mean, they're all matched paint. You can't beat it. This is a loaded train, 110 cars, I think, coming through. The only town they pass between Hayworth and Clinton is Wapella, Illinois. And this is going south through that town. They've got a 4th unit, the MP-15, way back there in the distance. It's got some mechanical issues. So when that got sidelined, they brought in a 3rd Paducah. So now it's a trio of matched Paducahs, which are all ex-IC home rails. It's a pretty neat operation. I wish they ran farther and did a little more, but they get about a unit train twice a month if you're lucky. So it's not easy to catch them moving.
Yeah, pretty rare catch.
It's a neat railroad to see when they do.
I like those trucks painted silver too. That's a nice touch.
Oh, it's sharp. All right, here we are, a couple miles south of Wapella. You can see the grain elevator in the background back there. Charter line, IC. Oh, Christ. We are, let me backtrack here a little bit. We are 776 miles north of New Orleans is what the mile marker is. And the poles over on the left is actually the old right-of-way of the Illinois Terminal Railroad.
Huh.
Give you a little history on what's going on here. And that's the line. We're already here coming into Clinton, Illinois, like one of the only curves on the line.
That is some beat-up jointed rail right there.
Oh, yeah, here you are. I like this angle with the old EMDs and define short line in the middle of nowhere, and here you are. I mean,
yes.
It's just cool. It's just cool to see 3 units of original heritage on home rails. I'm sure these engines ran this line before.
It would stand to reason.
It's just neat to see. So that's my little take on the Illinois Terminal Belt. And let's see where we go. We're going to go toward Decatur now and check out another newer railroad that formed, the Decatur in eastern Illinois. So here we are in Decatur, and we've got their Road Train 101 being built. They actually took over the CSX Decatur sub, which is former B&O trackage, back in September 2018. And they run, let's see, hey, they run the B&O from Decatur all the way east to Hillsdale. And they run a chunk of the ex-New York Central St. Louis line from Crescent down into Terre Haute. And they just recently bought the Eastern Illinois Railroad, the ERIC, which runs from Metcalf down to Neoga. So they got all this trackage now in Illinois. In my show, I'm just going to cover Decatur over toward Newman. I haven't covered much of this yet.
All right.
So we'll get going here. I chased a couple different 101s. They go on duty early in the morning, around 6, and they get going around 7, 8 o'clock, 7 days a week. So here we're crossing Lake Decatur, leaving Decatur. Long Creek, just outside of Decatur. It's a Watco-owned railroad, so the paint scheme isn't the most exciting. But the two SD45s are both former Chicago Northwestern. The leader's X958, and the trailer's X915, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Out of all the units, there could be a pair that were built together on the same short line.
I believe they had some IC&E Jeeps when they started up as well.
They still have a pair of them, yes, and I'm patiently awaiting to get them one day on one of these 101 trains. Here where are we at? Pearson Station, Illinois. And I like this shot because this line is not flat, by the way.
Yeah.
It literally falls off the face of the earth right here.
Yeah, you can really see the grade.
Oh yeah, and here we're coming into Ficklin. There's a couple industries behind me. They work before they get to Tuscola. But I mean, look at this hill. It's nuts. And this is all 10-mile-an-hour track, by the way.
I mean, it looks like they're going through a sinkhole, honestly.
I know, and they're working hard, but they have to keep track speed, so it's a fun railroad to chase. And here we are going by their yard office in Tuscola. They just crossed the IC main line back there, back behind where the grain silos are. And here is my final shot of the DREI in Newman, Illinois. I like the old town feel, the old buildings. There's a ton of different angles you can do here. And I just picked this one really quick to do. I've got to make it back out here. I wanted to do it in the fall. It didn't work. But I don't think the railroad's going anywhere. They're only growing. I mean, their customer base is through the roof. So now we'll change gears and we'll go invade Peoria area for a while. We'll check out some short lines that go in and out of Peoria. We'll go to the Keokuk Junction, everyone's favorite before the F units went away.
Yes.
Here's their TZPR transfer from Mapleton going to East Peoria to interchange with the Tazewell and Peoria Railroad. I was down here with Steve Smedley this morning, this wasn't morning. Yeah, we were down here this morning, and the crew was getting their train ready, and they had a Jeep 20 on the point, and Steve went and smooth talked them, and they were buddy anyway, but smooth talked him and got him to take the Jeep 20 off, so we had the ABA set of F units on a healthy freight train.
Very nice.
Which is my first and only time following this, so I was ecstatic. So we're leaving Mapleton here, and this was a massive, massive bucket list shot for me. They had gone across the river, interchanged with TZPR, and we are coming back across the river now. And this was just a shot that I've wanted for so long, and it all worked out, and I did it.
Yep. Lots of sunlight, high skies.
It was just perfect, and it was the ABA, nothing else. Yeah, I almost got, you see the cloud back there, I almost got blocked by a cloud.
Yep.
But yeah, no, this was a bucket list shot, and I'm happy to have it because shortly after they disappeared.
Yeah. Yep. Sold off to a new operator now.
Yeah, they're all gone. Um, Here we are coming into where are we at? Bartonville. We're passing under I-474 and crossing over Kickapoo Creek, going back toward Mapleton. They interchange with the Union Pacific over here, and TP&W traffic gets dropped here, and TP&W runs across town.
Is that another railroad bridge over there, just out of the almost out of the frame?
Yep, that's a TZPR line. They work. I forget the name of the yard just beyond them there, but the TZPR track. They work a yard over there, and they interchange with them over here, and it's a spider web of tracks. And sure. I wish I paid Peoria more time and attention because it is so neat. We're going back west here now, and this is coming back up to Mapleton. I like all the old artifacts along the line. I mean, ABA, you can't go wrong. And this is my last view of the KJRY. We'll go into Peoria now, and we'll check out some TZPR operations. Now, I've done Iowa Interstate since I could take a picture. So naturally, following them down to Peoria was the thing I did. And back in the day, when Iowa Interstate ran their coal trains from Cedar Rapids to Peoria, they would go to the NS, or I think this was a CN train, CN unit coal train, depending on who had the contract at the time. But in this era, Iowa Interstate would bring coal down or empties down, and TZPR would pick them up right at Limit Yard and run them across town with whatever junk power they could find.
Yep. So
Iowa brought this train down with 2 G38s for an empty that was typical. And then TZPR came across town with a Paducah rebuilt Jeep 10 and this INM SD18 number 61. And that was just, you never knew what they would come across town with. They would come across town with switchers, with SD20s, with whatever they had on hand.
Yeah, that Illinois and Midland is a little out of place too, but yes.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Because and here's another example. This is a TZPR industry job. And because it's all owned by Genesee and Wyoming down there, I mean, TP&W, TZPR, IMRR, they're all owned by the same parent company. So they literally, all the power just gets swapped and interchanged wherever it's needed.
Sure.
So, like, this is a TZPR industry job working the lakefront. They had just picked up these 2 Komatsu tractor loads, and they're heading up to Limit Yard to run around their train and head back toward East Peoria. But they're running with an XSP INM SW1500.
Nice.
So, yeah. And we're on our return trip. They stopped here at PMP right along the lakefront to switch out. I believe these were corn syrup cars. And there was another car of something else. David Jordan was down here. He was telling me all about it. This shot is something I've always wanted to do. And I used my Jeep for elevation just to get the angle I wanted. But this is the old Rock Island Depot, the original depot along the lakefront. And I've always wanted to get, I think it's clearly it's partly a restaurant now. But I've always wanted a shot somehow to incorporate it, and the sun angle's never right, and it just never worked out. So I kind of came up with this cool angle where I can catch it on the side with the old architecture and still get the train. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And another quality example of you never knew what they were going to come across town with. This is an older picture. The lead unit SW10 is still in Peoria and Pekin Union paint, PP&U paint, which is what the railroad was before TZPR was formed when G&W took over. So here we have another transfer coming back from the Iowa Interstate. Had a bunch of manifest on the head end, and you can see way back there. It was another empty unit coal train. So these two switchers have well over 100 cars in tow, cutting across town, and they'll head over the river bridge back to East Peoria.
Yeah.
Another transfer from the Iowa. I think it was 30 grain or 30 potash. But this is the last CNIM paint SD20 to exist. And I happened to catch it on the point of this move. So it was CNIM 81 SD20. I think it was the Illinois Midland 61 again, the SD18, and then an SW 1500. And they actually dragged a loaded coal train up all the way along the riverfront to interchange to the Iowa, and then grabbed the manifest the Iowa brought down and brought it back through town. So I let Iowa go, and I was like, I got to chase this SD20.
Pretty good show pulling out of downtown there.
Oh yeah, it was fun. He's coming up to Bridge Junction. He's going to hook that switch there and head over the river bridge where I shot the KJRY earlier.
Right.
Okay. And this will start more of a storytelling show here. I will take the Toledo, Peoria, and Western and follow them all the way east to state line of Illinois and Indiana. We'll take the TP&W, the modern TP&W, G&W owned, all the way across Illinois. They cross the Bloomer line at Chatsworth when we get there, and we'll check out the Bloomer line. And they also cross the KB&S twice over towards state line there, and we'll take a look at that when we get closer. So here we are. This is a historic location, Farmdale Trestle. There was a staged photo done here years ago for, I think it was a TP&W book that was being published in for PR and everything. They had a TP&W train in the engines were in the old red and cream. They had a road train parked on top, and they had a local parked on the bottom using trackage rights on the old N&W, which is now the NS Bloomington District.
Yep.
But they had two trains posed here for a photo, and I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, I always want a shot of that bridge. And eastbound TP&W runs aren't too common in daylight. They typically run at night out of Peoria. So when I got word that things were kind of jumbled and they called an extra crew to take this thing east, I ended up calling off work and driving out here to do it. And then when I found out it had a fresh paint Jeep 15 on the point, I was like, okay, this is gold. So here we are. They're pulling the hill out of Peoria. All four engines are online making a racket. They got over 130 cars because it was a couple days since they ran a road train. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So this is the angle that I wanted coming over Farmdale Trestle here, leaving Peoria.
Yeah, you got quite the set of power there too.
Oh yeah, I chased this thing. A bunch of my shots are going to be of this train. Here's a westbound coming into Peoria over Farmdale from the other side. And they got, right when G&W took over and they were moving stuff around, they brought 4 ex-ICE SD40-2s actually off the RCP&E, and they repurposed them down on the TP&W. So yeah, for a couple of years before they got dipped orange, we had blue and gold back down here running around. So any chance I got to go down and get them, I did, or I tried. So
for sure.
And I chased this train. I'm sorry, Tom?
Oh, for sure, yes.
I'm sure you enjoy the blue and gold.
Yes.
So I know I chased this train quite a bit west as well. So my show will continue here, and it'll kind of be just various chases of the road trains. So you'll see the same train in a couple different here. Here's the westbound coming through Washington. We're going east along the line, but this is a westbound coming through Washington, the next town east of Peoria. And this is that same morning eastbound that I was chasing out of Peoria. The full consist was a fresh paint Jeep 15, and then a X KD Jeep 40, and then an X, I want to say possibly Rio Grande ST45. It's a rebuild. It's an ST40 M-2. And I know fourth out is an XBN Jeep 50. So it was a cool, really neat mix of power. This is off of, where are we at? Off of Route 24. And we're coming into Kruger, Illinois. And there's a big grain elevator behind me. And they actually stopped and serviced them for a while. And this is all 10 mile an hour out here. Farther east, they get up to 25. Here, the conductor's on the ground. They're stopping I think they were dropping 30 cars, I want to say, for loading. The old Kruger sign's over here to the left, a little worse for wear. 2 miles east, we're in Eureka, Illinois. And this is that westbound, again, coming downhill, going west. And this is the eastbound, ripping uphill through Eureka. This is a different westbound. We got the XKD Jeep 40 on the point. This was during a time period where they were running the westbound road train in daylight regularly. It was still only 2 or 3 times a week, but it was regularly enough where I caught it a couple times. This is off of I-39 in El Paso, Illinois, or coming out of El Paso, Illinois.
All right. I think this is interesting because it looks like he's almost a solid train of those rounded Canadian grain hoppers.
Yes, those are TP&W letter. Those are actually TP&W family hoppers now. Yeah, no, I thought that was the coolest thing. It was 5 matching engines and almost a unit grain train, it looked like.
Yeah.
All right, so we're passing through downtown El Paso. This is the eastbound now, again. And right where the second and third engine are, right where that little bike path grade crossing is there, is that used to be the old ICG Amboy district. So that line used to cross there. And there's a depot. They relocated about 100 feet to my left. That used to be right here in this quadrant of the diamond. And I should have put the photo on my show and I didn't, but I found a really neat shot of an old Santa Fe train back when Santa Fe owned the TP&W, running east through here by the depot. All the code line over here on the left is still there, and the building on the right in downtown was still there. And the shot, it just looks awesome. It stayed the same minus the depot moving and the track being removed. But
wow. All right.
I like a lot of these old-timey Illinois towns. Just lots of neat character.
Yeah.
And here we are just outside of town there. There's an old farmhouse here, and the owner at one point had a TP&W caboose on the property here. I forget the name of the guy who used to own the home. He has since passed away. But I know he had a massive TP&W collection in the caboose. And I'm not sure who owns the property now, but the caboose is still there. And I always wanted this shot, so it worked out. This is just east of El Paso. Gridley, Illinois, another grain elevator. They get 5 or 6 cars of grain once or twice a week. Not a huge grain elevator. And here's that other westbound I got with the ice painted power. Couple miles farther east, we're at Weston, another huge grain railroad. I mean, we're talking that's their major commodity here. This is during a time period where TP&W was trying out local short line, not short line, but little local jobs, so they could run the road train straight through instead of servicing all the grain elevators. They could run the road train straight through. So they had a job based out of Fairbury, Illinois, which is just to my east of this photo, the next town east. They had a local crew come on, and they had power staged there. And that local crew would come on and service the grain elevators in either direction, and then run a local to Gilman to interchange with the CN, so the road freight didn't have to. So this was during that time period where they had the Fairbury turn running, and they were on duty at 7 in the morning, 5 days a week. So that was like, shooting fish in a barrel it only ran for a month or two, then they abolished it because they were short crews.
Huh, yeah.
But, yeah, for the month or two it ran, it was phenomenal. I mean, I'd be able to come down, and they're picking up grain here at Weston. This is a road train picking up Increbaza cars at Weston, and there's a humongous Increbaza plant over in Gilman they're heading east to. This is Fairbury. This is after they established the crew, because they rehabbed the shack that was there and actually gave it a town sign and a logo and stuff.
Yeah, pretty nice looking little building.
And here's
there.
the eastbound Fairbury turn. It really is. And for a GW operation, they got matching colors, and it just looks really sharp.
Yeah.
Further east of Fairbury, we got I'm a sucker for cemetery shots. And a snoot nose leading. Forest, Illinois. This is a hop, skip, and a jump down from where I live. This is a 25-minute drive down from my house. So right down Route 47. Forest, Illinois. Okay, we got a little story here. The depot was completely rehabbed and rebuilt to the original standards. The old ex-Wabash N&W Chicago to Decatur main line used to cross here just past the depot where that searchlight is there. There's actually an old turntable farther behind the depot in the weeds, because there used to be a little switch point here and a little runaround and a turntable for the local back in the old days.
Okay.
I love all the old artifacts that are just left behind by everything. Late evening summer eastbound, ripping through forest. I mean, they're 25, 30 mile an hour. It's a fun line to chase over here on this end. Fairbury turn, continuing east through forest. The depot is behind me.
So I'm curious.
Yes, sir.
When they're out here doing this, do they build these unit grain trains out of picking up multiple elevators?
Yes, sir.
So because this is something that we see in Iowa quite a bit also, where 25 car spots at 3 different elevators or 4 different elevators makes a 75 or 100 car grain train. Is that the same model that they have out here?
Yep. The road, for example, coming out of Peoria, that train was 140 cars. By the time it got to state line where the Effner Yard is, where the Indiana crew takes over and goes east, they were probably reduced to 75 or 70 cars because they dropped off a bunch of different grain elevators. Or I've seen the westbound road train go on duty in Indiana, only they'll have 4 or 5 engines but 30 cars, but then they'll pick up Increbazas and Gilman, they'll pick up grain at Weston, they'll pick up grain at Kruger. By the time they roll into Peoria, they're 150 cars.
Right.
So yeah, same exact concept. Where are we at? That's the approach signal for Chatsworth. So we're a mile west of Chatsworth. This is a westbound. That's a homemade little contraption. I'm not sure at what point in history that was put there, but it's a neat little semaphore. It's 1 mile out from the Bloomer Line diamond in Chatsworth there.
All right.
I like how clean that Jeep 40 is. That was a good day. And here's that same train about a mile up here crossing the Bloomer Line. Old signal's still intact. Neat little quaint town. And here's my cover shot. That's the Fairbury turn pulled up waiting for a northbound Bloomer Line grain train to clear. I had never ever seen a meet here. No one has. So when I posted when I posted this picture, people lost their minds. It's like, how did you get so lucky? And I was like, I did. I had a goal to go out and chase this Bloomer Jeep 10 because I had never shot the frog-eyed Paducah rebuild on the point of a train going north. I just never got lucky enough to get it. So I knew they were getting a grain train. They were getting a unit grain train from the NS in Gibson City, where their shops are and everything. So I'm like, okay, I'll head down early in the morning. They go on duty at 6. I'll see what they got for power. Sure enough, they departed with the 7504 on the point. I chased them all the way north. As we got here, I was setting up for my shot. I looked down the track. Sure enough, the TP&W Fairbury turn was pulling up to a stop. And I was like, I can't believe this is about to happen.
Yeah.
So here you go. And shortly after I shot this picture, 7504 had a mechanical failure, and it's done. They will not repair it.
Well,
so I'm happy I got this shot.
It is definitely interesting to see a Paducah rebuild in CB&Q inspired Chinese red too.
I love it. So here's my bloomer line story here. We're gonna start. Here we'll go. A bloomer line map. All right, this is a rough bloomer line map. It's not the best, but they're here. So we followed the TP&W, Chenoa, Fairbury. We're in Chatsworth. The bloomer starts in Gibson City here. They receive interchange from NS and the CN, all grain, all the primary grain. That's pretty much all they do. They run north through the town of Strawn. There's a junction called Risk here, and I'll explain that when we get to it. They also run southwest as far as Colfax. This is old XIC branch line, and they run northeast as far as Cullum. It shows Kempton, but that's out of service. The last grain elevator on the line is Cullum.
Okay.
So they run Gibson City up to Cullum and southwest to Colfax. So we just crossed the bloomer in Chatsworth, and we're going to head up to Cullum, and we're going to chase some bloomer action all the way down to Gibson City. So here we are. We're departing Cullum. They got a chunk of an NS unit train they just loaded, and they got 2 of their nicely painted Jeep 10s on the point, and we're going south.
You got a solid set of NS hoppers back there too.
Yes, yeah. The NS unit trains are always solid. It's the same. It's a unit train. It looks so nice. Here we're leaving Cullum here. I like the little church back there.
Mm-hmm.
Here's our Paducah rebuild. He's actually coming north into Cullum with empties. Super rainy morning, so I was trying some different stuff here.
Hide under the trees.
Yes, sir. And here we are going south out of Cullum. We're between Cullum and a town called Charlotte. This is all XIC. I love that shot, how I did that. Super old, chunky, jointed rail.
Yeah. The branch line standard.
Absolutely. The bloomer also has 2 lease units that you can see one right there.
Yeah, was that an LETX?
Yes, they have 2 LTEX.
Pardon me, yes. LTEX, yes.
Yes, sir. They're downgraded from Jeep 35s. They're basically Jeep 38s. They've got a red one, I think 3801. Well, they're 3801 and 3802. One's red like Railtex paint with the gray on top, so it kind of matches the bloomer power a little bit. And then the other one is a solid black abomination. The only saving grace about the black LTEX leaser is that it's a former Wisconsin Central Jeep 35.
Okay.
So I give it some leeway because it's got a cool history. But here, cool short line stuff going on. We're coming up to Charlotte, Illinois here. There's a chunk of a grain train loading at the elevator at Charlotte, and the other chunk of a grain train that loaded in Cullum is coming up behind them. And per bloomer standards, they usually start coming south from the furthest point north and combine trains as they go, throw motive power together, and keep going. And by the time they get to Gibson City, it's a unit train back to they can interchange it back to the home railroad. So we're at Charlotte. We got 2 sections of grain that's going to be combined. Here's in the grain complex at Charlotte. It's a huge grain elevator. We're finishing loading this section. This was a different day, but I wanted to include this specifically so you can see how old this rail was. Illinois Steel Company South Works, 1897. And the sad thing about this is a month ago I drove through here just to see what was going on, and they redid the entire lineup here. All this jointed rail is gone. It's all continuously welded rail, all well maintained, all reballasted. So I'm glad I shot this because Bloomer lost a little bit of character.
Probably lost a little bit of character, but had fewer derailed trains. Yes.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, no, this was scary to watch. 100%.
Yes.
You know, it was terrifying. Those loaded grain cars were not nice on this track.
Yep.
But
did it have a weight? Did you get the weight off of the rail also?
Oh gosh, no, I don't think well, I'd have to look through my folder with other pictures. Here's another one of my favorite shots. This is after they had combined 2 sections of a train up in Charlotte. One section had 2 engines and the other section had 2 engines. So when they combined, they had 4 engines. So we have 4 bloomers. The 2 leasers are buried where they belong. And I think we've got 60 or 70 grain cars in tow loaded. This is rolling through Chatsworth right before the TP&W Diamond. I think there was a 3rd section of grain being loaded in Gibson City too, because when they put the train together, it was over 110 cars. But I liked when they combined trains up farther north and they ran all the way south. Like this. This was a CN unit train, and they had 5 engines. I've never seen 5 before. This was 5 engines on the head end, and they're coming through Chatsworth, crossing the TP&W from the west side. This was one of my many failed attempts to get the Frog Eye Paducah on the point.
Yes.
It was rainy, it was crappy, and I was like, you know what? I heard they got a unit train, let's go try. And this is my effort. Still very cool looking, but it was not the Frog Eyes that I wanted. We're south of Chatsworth here, and you can see it's all pretty decently well-maintained welded rail at this point. South of Chatsworth, it gets much nicer. All right, so the IC branch line that they took down from Cullum, and that also runs southwest to Colfax, is the old IC Bloomington District, is what that branch line was. Well, not really a branch line at that time. It is now, but it was the IC Bloomington District. And now we're at a junction called Risk, just north of Strawn. You can see in the background behind the call box is where the IC Bloomington District kept going southwest. They are technically taking the southeast leg of the Y from what was the junction, is now their main line, and they're going to head south on the NNW. No, I'm sorry. Where are we at here? On the NNW Chicago to Decatur main line, the ex-Wabash, which was the line that crossed the TP&W and Forest that we passed earlier. So that's basically what they're turning onto now, which is all super heavy-duty welded rail. So they cruise the rest of the route into Gibson City. This shot is 10 years old. They still had the old searchlights from the Diamond here in the call box and everything else. All that's gone now, unfortunately.
Those are definitely some beat up searchlights. Look like they.
Oh yeah, I love the character out here. It's so much fun. And here we're going through. I love this little town. This is Strawn. It's a couple miles south of Risk. And man, once they clear Risk Junction, man, they go right to Run 8 and they just go. I mean, you can see the dust kicking up back there. It is so much fun to chase this line. All the code line is still there, the poles.
Yeah. CNW system hoppers back there.
Yep, those are a line. Well, the Bloomer line itself is owned by the Alliance Grain Company. It's a grain loading outfit. And those are their company cars. They stay online and they load. I don't think they're potash. I think they're grain. No, it could be potash. But they stay online. So those XCW cars stay between Gibson City and points north on the Bloomer. They don't get interchanged.
Okay.
This is a northbound through Strawn. You can see one of the old approach signals back there too. Morning southbounds. I've got a bunch in my show. They don't happen very often, but I've shot a bunch of them because when they do happen, they're worth doing because the light is so good on them. Typically, Bloomer will go on duty at 6 in the morning, grab the unit train from wherever it is, if it's wherever it is in town in Gibson City, and they'll go north to various grain elevators and drop power and cars at different grain elevators, load throughout the day, and then start their trip south. Their goal is to make it back south to Gibson City with all the loads by the end of the day. That doesn't always work out. So sometimes, if there's an issue with loading or an issue somewhere along the line, they'll tie down for the night and just start back up in the morning. So if I ever hear of that happening, which isn't too common, but like I said, there's a bunch in my show because it looks so good, you get out there early in the morning and it's a beautiful southbound chase all the way because they're running south in the morning. So here we are, 4 engines, Run 8, ripping out of Strawn, massive unit train. This is the other option we have. Late in the day, trying to make it back to Gibson City on time, unit NS grain train. This is coming north along Route 47 between the town of Sibley and then Strawn is behind me. This line here is not flat. There are a lot of hills, and it's super neat.
Yeah.
Here, we have agriculture here. I love this shot. And the leaser kind of fits in there, too.
We have grain being produced and grain being moved.
Correct. Here we go. This line is not flat. This NW line is super scenic, not flat at all.
Yeah.
We're ripping uphill around the corner. I like this curve a lot. I got a couple of different shots here. There's your CW, old CW hoppers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a nice line to shoot. And here's my personal favorite, my morning southbound I got. Little roller coaster. I mean, you just can't beat it. And I wish I did a video here.
Yeah. It would sound great with those EMDs going over the top of the hill there.
Yep. Yeah, here's my rainy morning when I didn't get the frog eyes. But I rebounded with the frog eyes here. That's the old NW Sibley Depot. This is one of my first chases of a Bloomer line train that I had. I think this was the first chase we had. Me and a couple of buddies of mine were down here. This is Sibley putting their train back together because they were loading in Cullum, Charlotte, and Sibley on this day. So they were putting together the final chunk of train. They got 3 of their Jeep 10s together, and they're ready to take it the rest of the way to Gibson City. Here's a 4-pack coming out of Sibley. Another grade, another roller coaster. Here's a little farther, different angle on the same grade, a little farther south here, coming out of Sibley, where they just shoot up a hill around the corner, and then they actually go down a hill right next to me.
Makes for a nice wide-angle shot, though.
Oh, yeah. It's fun to do. Nice late autumn train.
corn has been harvested and it's in the hoppers now.
Yes, sir. There's that's another failed attempt at my Frog Eye Jeep early in the morning. Sunset on an autumn day.
Mm-hmm.
Farmhouse, Jeep 10s. Another failed attempt at my Jeep 10 with the Frog Eyes. Here's a town you blink and miss. Garber. Is it Garber? Yep, Garber, Illinois. I think that's the only building in the entire town. Cool little shot, though. We're a couple miles north of Gibson City at this point. They're almost home. And here we are home. Coming along, siding in town there. Here we are in Gibson City. They're pulling a unit train off the NS Bloomington district here. They actually have to use the NS Bloomington district to get over onto the CN to interchange trains with them. It's a weird sachet move they have to do.
Okay. Trackage rights are usually a complicated matter.
They are. To make the move, they got to contact 2 Class 1s. It doesn't always work out so well.
Yeah.
But here we are on the CN, that former ICG depot still in town there. I want to say this is the CN Clinton, Illinois sub. And they run their little local up from Clinton, Illinois to Gilman to interchange cars. And we've got the Bloomer here with the unit train heading back to CN, blocking up all of Gibson City.
All 2 crossings.
Yeah, I think there's 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That's about it, yeah. Here's light power coming back from dropping off the CN grain train, and we're going by headquarters, Alliance Grain.
Yes.
And I want to say this is my parting shot of the Bloomer. It is. Let's resume chase on the TP&W. Westbound going across at Chatsworth. A little high sun. It's okay, though.
That 6th car out looks like it's derailed on the ground.
You know, it wasn't, because I chased this train all the way to Peoria. But I looked at that shot when I put it in the show, and I thought the same thing. I don't know if there's a massive dip there in the track or what, but it wasn't derailed because I chased the train all the way to Peoria. But in the picture, that looks super strange. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Funny you mentioned that, and I forgot to put it in my show. There was a derailment here. Probably the same year this shot was taken. There was a derailment just east of town where they dumped, I think, the last 6 cars of the road train on the ground. Something broke. One of the axles broke. Something broke and dislodged.
Yeah.
And derailed the last 6 cars of the train. So they just uncoupled, left them there, and took the train to Peoria. And I think they sat there with the main line torn up for almost 2 weeks before they came and repaired it.
Wow.
Yeah, I went down there to take a look at it. I took some pictures, and there was nobody around, just destruction.
Huh.
Let's see, where are we at? Piper City. We are between Chatsworth and Gilman.
I feel like this shot's just missing a barbershop quartet in the gazebo.
I agree. We've got an eastbound here. I just shot this 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah?
This is the same snoot-nosed SD40 that I have in a couple other shots that was blue and gold.
Yes.
Now it's fresh orange, as you can see. Yeah, we got a snoot-nosed SD40. We got a Jeep 38-2. That's a chop-nose XNS high-hood Jeep 38-2. And one of the newer XUP Jeep 15s third out. Little tiny, again, you blink and you miss, little tiny town of La Hogue, Illinois. And they're working a little tiny corn syrup industry that a couple of farmers got going on here. Road train coming through La Hogue. Old station sign still there, which I think is pretty cool. And this is just east of Lahogue. You can see the massive grain complex back there, the tiny town to the left. Here we're coming in Fairbury turn, coming into Gilman, and I pouring rain, by the way. It was nuts, but I found it fascinating that G&W, and it on purpose or not, I'm not sure, but the switch stand and derail matched the power, and I thought it was so cool. Whether it's on purpose or not, I don't know, but it looks neat.
I mean, I've seen an awful lot of yellow derails in my life. I think that the switch stand is probably more unique if I were to pick one from the other.
I agree with you. Here we are crossing Gilman, Illinois. We're crossing the old IC main line. Gilman IC depot's in the background. And since I started rail fanning to now, this is a change, but I don't think it's too new of a change. I think it's been there for a while. Slow speed diamond, so the CN can maintain track speed, and the TP&W's got to crawl over it at 10. But they're clomping over the CN there. And then about a block to my east, we're going by the Iroquois Arms and Antiques building in Gilman. Cool little downtown there.
Very nice.
Little further east there, coming out of Gilman, got some code line. I love those spring trees when they're in bloom. And here we're along Route 24. The Route 24, where we started with the train way back in Washington and Kruger, the road follows the railroad all the way in through Indiana. You can chase. It's the easiest thing to chase. I mean, you're never farther than a mile from the tracks.
Nice.
So we are in Crescent City, Illinois. We're going east. This road train, this is the one we shot in Lahogue. They picked up 2 units and a bunch of cars in Gilman, and they're well over 100 cars now. Like I said, like you were mentioning, you kind of build as you go, and by the time they get to their destination, they're huge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're a little farther east. This is Watseka, Illinois. The next town east of Crescent City, where they crossed the Union Pacific Villa Grove sub. Old station sign. This was a eastbound road train in the evening. So, which is kind of cool that I got the snoot leading both.
For sure.
Just two different eras, I guess.
This is CENI, is that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And this is the diamond is about 3 or 4 car lengths behind that bush there.
Okay.
But this was the best. This was the best angle I could do of the old Watseka CNEI depot, like you said, original built 1906. So I wanted to incorporate all that history in with the shot, and I thought it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, for sure.
Continuing east, we're at a location called Webster, crossing one of the KB&S lines to, this one goes to Danville, ex-Milwaukee Road trackage. And here we're in Sheldon. The TP&W crosses what I consider the KBS main line, which is the old NYC. Let's see. It is the old NYC. Is it Big Four? I don't know. And New York Central main line. New York Central main line.
Yeah.
Yeah. KB&S was formed in 1977. Took over the NYC.
Okay.
Yeah, the KB&S is a whole. It's just a really neat chunk of history. This is in Sheldon here. A secret location there in the water tower. TP&W actually interchanges grain with the elevator on KB&S trackage, which is what they're doing here now. We're actually on the KB&S picking up their TP&W lettered grain cars. Cool little patch there.
Yeah.
And road train continuing east across the KB&S.
tri-light signal.
Signals still stand. Yes, they excite me too. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, switching gears here. KBNS. We've got a train. This train is coming back from Lafayette with grain cars off the NS. About 50. They usually run at 50 car chunks, grain cars. This is actually the rear of the train. The head end. They typically run in 2x2 or 2x1 fashion to help facilitate moves. This is an MT coming from the NS to load before it goes back east. In town in the grain elevator here in Sheldon, they're actually leasing a Vermilion Valley Railway Grand Trunk Jeep 9 5620. Original high hood Grand Trunk Jeep 9.
So just a question about running the 2x2. Do they run with a pusher crew? And
yes, sir.
They have a crew on each end when they do that?
Yep, they are. It's a manned crew, and they radio each other, and they help get over hills and stuff. And yeah, the entire crew on the KBS is dual qualified.
Okay.
So an engineer can be a conductor, can be a switchman. Whatever they need to get done, they get done. It is the most efficient railroad I've ever railfanned. It is fun to watch them work because they know what they're doing. I just included this because I just thought it was neat. And here we are, KBS. We're at the shops at Iroquois, Illinois. I mean, they are very, very railfan friendly. You can call the office and the secretary will help you out, tell you what's going on. There's a Facebook group that was put together that a couple employees are on that are more than happy to help out railfans. Super nice group of guys.
Nice.
Here, KBS map. It's a loose A. I like to think of it as kind of a loose A. So.
All right.
We're in Iroquois right now at the shops. We're gonna start up in Kankakee where they interchange with the CN, and we're gonna chase them all the way down the New York Central to Templeton, where the New York Central combined with the Nickel Plate Peoria line, and they had joint trackage into Lafayette. So I will take the KBS from Kankakee down to Templeton, where I think I cut it off in my chase, because this is all Indiana stuff. I'm not going to go too far into Indiana. But then I'm going to cover a bunch of the Nickel Plate Peoria route, and I will cover some of the ex-Conrail NYC Egyptian line, the segments that are left. And then to close out the show, we will follow the ex-Milwaukee, what is it? Milwaukee.
That was the line to Louisville.
Yes, sir. Yes, that was the word I was looking for.
Yep.
We'll follow the ex-Milwaukee Road south all the way to Danville. Lots of history, lots of cool old artifacts, lots of neat stuff. So let's get going here. We're in Iroquois. Very neat shops. I mean, everything's painted to match. Very, very cool looking. Here we are in Kankakee. We're pulling interchange up the CN. This is actually an old New York Central depot. The depot's gone, but you can see the cement where the platform was. There's a light here in the tree, and there's another light behind me that used to light the platforms. Old NYC cantilevers still standing there in Kankakee. Not the best neighborhood here, just for the record. Aroma Park, Illinois, is a super scenic spot to catch them pulling interchange off the CN. They're going south here, back toward Iroquois. They only run the CN twice a month, maybe 3 times. It used to be much more regular than that, but just don't have that traffic up there anymore. A lot of the grain comes from NS now. Here we are at St. Anne, Illinois. They cross the UP Villa Grove sub back there. And namesake town. We're in Beaverville, Illinois, part of the Kankakee Beaverton Southern. That's a former TP&W custom homemade snowplow that the KBS purchased. and they keep here in town. They have used it. I've never seen them use it. I would like to. But it's painted in blue and yellow to match the current roster, and it's a little worse for wear, but I think it's pretty neat looking.
That is quite the unique snowplow, for sure.
Yes. I've gotten it twice with them, and you actually see the old TP&W red and cream coming through there, too.
Yep.
All right, back at Iroquois, the old NYC on the bottom, and the old Milwaukee Road truss bridge on top. And that's all actual storage cars up there. The KBS does a lot of storage. They make a lot of revenue off of storage. And again, one of those scenes I wish I was doing video, but we've got a empty grain train coming from Indiana on the bottom, and we had a local crew switching the storage cars on top, and both of these trains were moving at the same time.
Nice.
And yeah, that it looked neat. Here we've got a train coming off of the line, off the Milwaukee Road, coming down the New York Central, and they had power staged there. So as the train came off the Milwaukee Road, they pulled past, tied the power on, and boom, they took off. So a very fluid crew, and we're here going under the Milwaukee Road at Iroquois, right by their shops. And this is a grain train, loaded grain train, headed back to the NS Interchange in Lafayette. And I thought this was cool because usually it's, like I was telling you earlier, 2 on the front, 2 on the back, or some combination of that. Or they were on, I've even seen them run 1 by 1 if it's a shorter train. But this day, they had no cars coming back from the NS, so they ran it all 3 on the head end and didn't worry about the rear unit. So.
Interesting.
Yep, this is in the actual town of Iroquois, Illinois, just north of shops, going across the river there. And we're in Sheldon. I call this town the shoreline crossing of the shorelines, just because there are so many artifacts in such a small area. It's just a neat, like, time stood still type of a town. This is coming out of Sheldon. That's the elevator that has that Vermilion Valley Jeep 9, and those are the 2 center cabs that used to work it. They're out in the back lot rusting away. Earl Park, Illinois. And here's one of my favorite views. This is, where are we at here? Off of Route 52, I believe. Yep, no, off Route 41, east of Earl Park. 52 is the road that continues east that I chase on. This is off of Route 41, just east of Earl Park. I love this shot off this overpass. It looks so nice. Here we are in Fowler, just east of Fowler.
So does the KBS run all Jeeps exclusively?
Yes, sir. They have a roster of 6 Jeep 38. I think they consider them Jeep 38 M-2s. And, a lot of the older rail fan community does not like them because they replaced all the cool Alcos they used to have. It used to be a solid Alco roster. And I was a little too young and a little too naive to pay much attention to it when I should have been.
Yeah.
And I missed all of that. So I will document all the Jeeps while I can. I mean, they're still Jeep 38s. It's a sharp paint scheme. But like I was saying about artifacts here, we're in Indiana by now. This is Swanington, Indiana, just over the border. And we've got an old, New York Central switch stand over here. Just little artifacts throughout the entire way.
You find any bumblebees in those thistles?
I try to avoid them at all costs.
Yes.
Here we are at Templeton. We're coming around the bend. There's a gigantic sheep farm behind me that's been there since I can remember. That's how I know it's Templeton. There's a gigantic sheep farm.
Yeah.
But this is where the New York Central combined with the Nickel Plate Peoria route, and they had joint trackage going into Lafayette behind me. I'm pretty sure this is my last shot on the New York Central. Yes, sir. Because here we are on the Nickel Plate Peoria line, crossing what used to be the Egyptian line, New York Central Egyptian line, at a Handy Tower, which is still standing. The only time you can shoot the tower is in the winter like this, when you can actually see it. Otherwise, it's completely buried and overgrown. So here we've got a pair of Jeeps starting out the morning. They're coming over to Handy here, and they're going to take what's left of the Y behind me and head south to Stewart, Indiana. I think it's Indiana. We're right on the border between Illinois and Indiana. They're going to head about five or 6 miles south to Stewart and pick up a loaded grain train to take to Lafayette. There's actually the old diamond laying in the weeds there. And this was actually after an ice storm, too. All the ice is still lingering on all the trees.
It's a nice effect.
Different day. What's that?
It's a nice effect with all the ice on the branches.
It was not a nice effect on the roads that morning. I will say that. Yeah. It looked pretty. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Different day. Clearly, we have green. KBS grain train coming out of Stewart. Heavy. You can see it's heavy welded rail. The old New York Central. We're at a location called that Conrail called Tab, according to the little town sign there.
A little bit of Conrail blue there on the sign as well.
Yes, sir. And here we are coming back up to Handy. Old approach. No, going too fast here, show. Slow down. Coming up to Handy here. The old approach signal back there looks kind of sad, but.
Was that a CPL?
No, that's an old tricolor just hanging there. The background fell off. It's gone.
Oh, okay.
Little side note about this little line literally just between Handy and Stewart. There is some contract out with the farmers down here. It's actually its own short line called the B Line Railroad.
Okay.
And it's leased to the KBS to switch. The grain elevator and the outfit, they own this stretch of track. It's called the B Line Railroad. Yeah. And they lease it to the KBS, so the KBS services them. So this is actually technically another short line, if you want to call it that. But it's only a few miles, and the KBS services them. And
this is another section of that Egyptian line.
Correct. Yes. Right. And here we are coming off the Egyptian line onto the nickel plate Peoria line. Just east of Handy there. And this is another town called Boswell. Super scenic, grain elevator, you got water tower, you got, and a Casey's gas station. I mean, what else are you going to ask for in an Illinois small town, you know?
Yeah.
That same morning, we've got a bunch of lingering ice. I mean, it was like glass out there. It was so pretty, but terrifying at the same time. We're coming out of Chase, Illinois on the NKP, and a little bit of a dip in the line there, so they were cooking, getting their grain train up to speed. Oxford, Illinois. All these little, blink and you miss towns. But they all have their own little character.
Yeah.
And we're back to Templeton. Oh, yeah, another rail fan back there. I did not notice that before. We got the train coming from Handy, staged on the nickel plate, and we've got a train of empties coming out of Lafayette, taking the corner onto the nickel plate. And if memory serves me correctly, these were all loads destined for the Union Pacific and St. Anne, so they were all going north. Okay. So I'm pretty sure these were empties going to somewhere else to load, and these were loads going to St. Anne, so they combined the train. These guys pulled past, the train off the nickel plate pulled east, they combined, and they ran up to Iroquois Junction 2x2. And it happened in like 5 minutes. Boom, 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 they were going.
Right.
All right, we're back up at Iroquois. Back up at Iroquois. Shops here, and we're going to start chasing down the ex-Milwaukee Road. This line does not see a lot of traffic. They only run to Danville to interchange with CSX maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, and it's not that many cars. So here we are leaving shops on the Milwaukee Road. I really like that angle. You get a really good idea of how it looks down there. Crossing the TP&W at Webster. I had spoken with the crew at the yard office earlier that morning. They had given me permission to climb up the old searchlight that was here, so that's how I got this angle. That's the old original Milwaukee cabin. That's still standing there today. In fact, if we advance here, this was my shot 2 weeks ago of that TP&W eastbound road train. In another slightly different angle. That's at a location called Webster. Here we are at the next town south, Darrow, and by town I mean grain elevator and nothing else.
Right.
And that's about a typical train going to Danville. I mean, you'll have a Jeep or two and only about 4 or 5, 6 cars. This was a beautiful, fresh snow day. You've got the Milwaukee Road switch stand. The only reason why the snow is cut over here is because that critter was loading grain cars before the KBS showed up. And here we are. I want to say this is Cutmer, Illinois. And this is right on the border between Illinois and Indiana, but this line runs straight as an arrow on the Illinois side. No, this is Cutmer. I'm sorry, this is Cutmer. This is south of Stockland. And I'm talking, like, middle of nowhere, no gas stations, barely, like, farmhouses and flat, for the most part.
Very pristine looking snow out there looking across the field.
This was the day after a gigantic snowfall.
Uh-huh.
And I had heard they were going south, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll go do it. They were cutting all the grade crossings and everything. This is just east of Rossville. And here we are. This has been in a couple different calendars and stuff, this shot. We're coming up to Newell, here where they actually interchange with the CSX. They drop cars in a siding in a town called Newell where the NS nickel plate goes overhead. They don't interchange with the NS, but there's a neat little bridge there. They drop interchange for CSX at Newell, and then they go down a few miles south into Danville to pick up cars from the CSX to go back north. So, here we're coming up to the switch at Newell to drop their cars, and the crew had a little bit of work to do. Pulling under the nickel plate to drop their cars in the siding for the CSX, and that ends my coverage of the KB&S. And I'm pretty sure the end of my slideshow, I got a little Easter egg at the end here. Boom. Here we are at Newell, some years previous, and we've got the nickel plate 765 charging over the KB&S trackage, which at the time I thought was out of service because I had never seen the KBS down here before.
Yeah.
So,
very nice, though.
Yep, there you have it. That's my take on some Illinois shortlines.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. This has been an excellent show, and I think nice conclusion there with the steam engine. Definitely appreciated that. So, everybody just check in next month. We're going to be doing, Dave Kroger will have a program for us on the Iowa Railroad, the Milwaukee Road, and operations on the former Rock Island after the shutdown in 1980. So make sure and check back in. Thank you again, Chris, and we'll see you next month.